Uh-oh, more bad news for Donald Trump. You remember before the election, all the polls showed that the American people trusted Donald Trump more on the economy, that they bought into the bullshit revisionist propaganda lie that the economy in Trump's first term was so great and that he was responsible for it. It was the number one issue that got him reelected. Now, I know a lot of people think that, the economy had nothing to do with it. No issues had anything to do with it. It's a cult, and they were going to vote for Donald Trump no matter what, and they just say that they were voting for him because of the economy. Now, that's certainly true with respect to his cult. But the cult is a distinct minority of the electorate. It's like 20 to no more than 30% of the electorate. All right. There are a lot of people who voted for Trump who are not wrapped up in the whole cult of personality aspect of Donald Trump. They voted for him primarily because of the economy. It was far and away the most important issue in the last election, and all the exit polls show that. Now, also think about how close the election was, period. I mean, he just barely won. He won the popular vote by 1.5%. Now think about the swing states, how close the swing states were. Those people who were not part of the cult, but who voted for Donald Trump because of the economy, that number of people was more than enough to swing the election in those swing states in favor of Donald Trump. The economy is why Donald Trump is president right now. And that's why it's not good for Trump. Because after just 1 month in office, the American people now strongly disapprove of the way that Trump is handling the economy. Check this out from Newsweek. Most Americans disapprove of President Trump's handling of the U.S. economy, despite entering the White House on the promise of lowering prices for consumers. According to a recent Gallup poll, Trump's approval rating on the economy stands at just 42%. This is lower than any president's February reading in recent history, including those for Joe Biden, who had 54% approval on the economy, Barack Obama, 59%, George W. Bush, 53%, and Bill Clinton, 45%. Other polls on the economy are even worse for Trump. Here's one from the American Research Group. A total of 43% of Americans say they approve of the way Donald Trump is handling his job as president. 51% say they disapprove. Okay, so that's his approval rating. Only 43% approve, 51% disapprove. He's 8 points underwater in his approval rating. When it comes to Trump's handling of the economy, just 38% of Americans approve and 56% disapprove. That's a big deal. Unprompted, voters disapproving of Trump's handling of the economy complain that Trump has not reduced grocery, gasoline, and or energy prices as he promised during the campaign. Of course he didn't. He was just lying to keep his orange ass out of prison. And this is my point about the cult. So his approval rating on his handling of the economy is down to just 38%. No one who's part of his personality cult would ever disapprove of anything he's doing on any issue. So if we're down to 38% approval on the economy, that is at most, that's the highest percentage that the cult could possibly be, right? The cult can't possibly be any more than 38%. If only 38% approve of his handling of the economy. But the truth is, this is going to go much lower. His handling of the economy is going to go much lower. As bad as things are right now, we're only a month into this. We ain't seen nothing yet. It's going to get a lot worse. And his approval is going to get much, much lower. To the point that he's only going to be left with the hardcore cult supporters. And then we'll really get a better sense of what percentage of the country that is. So right now, it's not possible for it, if this poll is accurate and only 38% approve of his handling of the economy, 38% is the most that the Trump could be. I mean, the Trump cult could be. Okay, but we're going to find out it's going to be much lower than that. So those of you who think Trump is never going to lose support, his cult supports him no matter what. Yes, his cult supports him no matter what. But he did not get elected just with the cult. That is the point. And the cult is not nearly as big as we have been led to believe. Okay, here's some more from Reuters. Americans give President Donald Trump middling marks on his handling of the economy and efforts to shrink the government, and are unimpressed by some of the early fights he has picked, such as proposals to take over Gaza. This according to a new Reuters Ipsos poll. The poll, conducted February 13th through the 18th, asked more than 4,000 U.S. adults nationwide whether they supported a range of positions staked out by Trump and how much the issues would motivate them to vote in the future. The results point to Trump putting considerable effort into policies that many Americans don't like or don't consider very important. A wave of frustration over prolonged inflation helped power Trump to victory in November, and a majority of respondents, 58%, said inflation would be a major factor in deciding their votes in the future. But just 32% approved of the job Trump was doing on inflation. The economy was his number one issue. And if we're going to break that issue down, inflation was the most important issue related to the economy for most voters. So far and away, the specific issue of inflation was the single most important issue in the last election, and just 32% approve of the job that Trump is doing on inflation. You know, his people make the excuse for him, oh, it's only a month, you can't expect him to solve inflation in just a month. Well, you know what? You know who said he was going to solve inflation? Not just within the first month, but starting on day one? Yeah, that would be Donald Trump. And maybe the voters, just maybe, they were paying attention when he was making those promises. And because they're stupid, they actually believed that Trump was going to start lowering prices on day one. And now they're pissed that it's not happening. And not only is it not happening, it's actually getting worse. And again, 32%, it's going to get a lot lower than that. And as bad as it's going to get, I'm really interested to see how low it does go. Because I really want to know what percentage of this country is made up of Trump cultists. Because pretty soon, we're going to be left with only the Trump cult supporting this guy. Okay, a little bit more from the Reuters article. Views of the economy by households deteriorated this month to the lowest level in over a year. This according to a widely followed survey by the University of Michigan. Just 25% of respondents and only half of Republicans said they supported Trump's idea of having the U.S. government take over Gaza and resettle Palestinians elsewhere. Quote, check this out. This is from a Republican lawyer in New York City. Quote, I thought that was a moronic idea because it's infeasible. If you did it, it would cost a lot of money. And at the end, what would you have? Some sort of resort? Like, what good is that for anyone? You don't say. Remember, not everyone who voted for him is part of the cult. I really don't want you to lose sight of that, because people have fallen for this mistaken belief that half of the country is part of the cult. Half of the country is personally loyal to Donald Trump and will support him no matter what. Guys, it's nowhere near half the country. And we're going to find that out. We're already starting to. Trump is a freaking disaster. He is going, people are going to feel it in their own personal lives. It's going to become real for them. And there's no amount of spin by Fox News and the Trump White House that's going to make people not believe what is actually happening to them in their own personal lives. And yes, these people who are part of his cult will blame whoever Donald Trump wants them to blame, the Democrats, Biden, it'll somehow still be Biden's fault, whatever. Yes, the cult will excuse him no matter what. But a lot of people who voted for him will start to wake up, and a lot of them already are. There is a reason that Donald Trump lost re-election in 2020. People have extremely short attention spans. And in the 4 years since he lost in 2020, there's been a lot of revisionism. And the American people have been subject to a lot of nonstop propaganda that went largely unanswered. And so when one side every day is telling you how bad the country is, the economy's never been worse, and it's all Joe Biden's fault, and there is virtually no counter narrative to combat that bullshit, the American people are going to believe the lies. That's just the way it goes. That's human nature. But, even Fox News is starting to report some of the reality. Take a look at this video. This is a short clip from Larry Kudlow on the Fox Business Channel. Take a look at this.
There could be some short-term one-off price hikes. But at least for now, the economic signals are flashing slower growth and higher inflation. Not good.
So even old Larry Kudlow is beginning to talk about what is obvious. The economy is starting to tank. It's going to get worse. Every day, there are new economic indicators suggesting that we are headed towards economic disaster. Inflation is going to come roaring back. The deficit is going to explode as Donald Trump passes massive tax cuts to help his rich billionaire friends while everyone else gets screwed. Those tax cuts are going to add massively to the debt. There is so much going wrong in the economy right now, and it's all because of Donald Trump. And that's what we need to focus on. Remember the new rules. The new rules are that everything wrong that happens in this country or anywhere in the world is Donald Trump's fault. That's the message that we need to keep putting out. Remind people as they're seeing these bad things in the economy that Donald Trump promised to fix all of this on day one. And what's he doing? Is he doing anything to try to fix any of it? No. What's he doing? He's renaming the Gulf of Mexico. He's trying to ban paper straws. He's picking fights with our allies on Twitter. He's doing all of this nonsense. What is he not doing? He's not doing any of the things that these people elected him to do. And their lives are getting worse as a result. That is our job. When we turn the American people against this man, and he's helping us mightily in that effort, then other possibilities open up to us. Other ways to oppose this man and defeat this man suddenly become possible if the American people turn against him. So that is step one. You want to beat this guy? Step one is turning the American people against him. And there's a lot we can do on that, and we need to be doing it every day. Trump is a friggin' disaster. Things are going to get worse. We need to remind the American people why they voted against him in 2020 and remind them that every single thing wrong that's going on in this economy and everywhere in the world is Donald Trump's fault. Unfortunately, we're all going to have to go through some things, but you know what? There's nothing we can do about that. The idiots that we're surrounded by in this country made that just a fact of our life over the next few years at least, because they reelected this guy. And so there's no way to avoid the damage that he is going to do. What we need to do is make sure that the American people know who to blame for all that damage. That's what we need to do. All right. Anyways, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it, and I'll talk to you again soon.